Hello everyone and welcome to another Starfield video. This is a bonus video for today because we have a breaking quote-unquote controversy that I want to get you caught up to speed, and I want to break it down why Microsoft is sending a powerful message to everybody who might be a video game reviewer out there, and we want to talk about it, the pros and the cons. But you're getting this video, guys, because you not only smashed the like button over 200 times on the last video, thank you guys so much for that, but also 71,000, oh my gosh, this is insane, have hit subscribe. In fact, it was not this number earlier this morning, so this is hopefully a fun thank you guys for your incredible support. If you guys are brand new to the channel, we talk a lot about games and a little bit about life here. It's going to be my goal to help try to encourage you to get out of debt and to build wealth, as well as enjoy gaming all the way into your twilight years. And that is ultimately kind of the mission, I guess, of this channel, for lack of a better word. But we've got a lot to cover. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, pro and con. All opinions are always welcome. Just keep it respectful when it comes to somebody who might disagree with you. We can all be adults sometimes around here, especially when it comes to gaming. So let's kick this off right. Steven Totillo kind of kicks this off, and this is where we're going to start this video. It's one thing for Bethesda to block copies of Starfield from outlets like Eurogamer, Axios, and others. It's another to, as described here, give a code to Eurogamer that they specifically say only Eurogamer's partner Digital Foundry can use. There's important aspects and the reason why you're picking Digital Foundry, but this will be interesting in terms of the long-term view of this, but we'll cover that here in a second. Now, I'm going to say this really clear because we've got a lot of new people here at the channel recently. I don't think video game reviews are what they used to be, or at least what they used to be for me growing up. I'm only speaking for myself. You can let me know if at all we're anywhere near the same page on this, but I'm going to shout out ACG. If you guys don't follow ACG, his reviews I think are probably the top tier when it comes to the most unbiased you can be. He gets early copies, but he also puts his money into the pot. I think that is the best compromise that we can have, because my view is that access media getting the perks doesn't mean it doesn't, and it does. It doesn't also mean that I'm judging people who take that access, but it can have an impact. And I've talked to many creators, large and small, who have alluded to that impact, that prison that they end up kind of feeling connected to, their livelihood being connected to access. And so that's one of my major concerns. I've expressed it here on the channel, but I want to highlight ACG because I think if anybody else out there does it just as best as can be, it's him, in my opinion. You can let me know if you've got great reviewers out there. I like a lot of them. I'm just shouting him out. It's not him or nobody else. Just keep that in mind. Let's get to the controversy, the root of what Eurogamer said, and that's going to be this. Now, I want to highlight the first paragraph of their article first. It says, no publisher is obligated to provide a copy of their game to us, but it's important that we're able to be transparent with you, our readers, about the delay, and this will have on Eurogamer's coverage as you expect, especially as it's become clear that copies of the game are abundant elsewhere, and particularly in the US. Access to the game appears to have been heavily restricted to in the UK, where Bethesda has also not provided copies of Starfield to other websites and YouTube channels owned by Eurogamer's parent company, ReedPop. Meanwhile, some other UK outlets have been provided access through Bethesda's US arm. Throughout the past 2 weeks, since copies of the game were made available to the media, I've spent hours trying to discuss the issues with Bethesda, and the matter has been repeatedly flagged to both Bethesda and Microsoft at senior levels. I have also told Eurogamer that we'll receive a copy at some point, but even if this happens today, we are now well past the point where being able to appraise such an enormous RPG at the same time as the other outlets this week. Ultimately, delaying Eurogamer's access to Starfield means a delay that you're reading our verdict. It also means our scores will join the industry's critical consensus at a later point, afterward outlets that were initially picked by Bethesda. Rest assured, however, Eurogamer's Starfield review will be published as soon as we are able, once we can give this important release the playtime it fully deserves. The same is also true for Guides coverage. Our brilliant and hardworking Guides team will still cover Starfield in depth and detail that they've built a reputation for just later than we'd expect. So let's talk brass tacks here. Let's demystify the illusions that we all have. Being first to market in the content creation game is more critical than being correct. And that sucks. It sucks that being correct and accurate is sacrificed to being first. And what they're actually talking about here is the financial impact that they are going to have because of what Microsoft Bethesda did. This is Microsoft and Bethesda smacking them across the face because they absolutely know it. It's been flagged multiple times to senior leaders. Now, you could be upset with Microsoft and Xbox, but that's the game. Like, you know, let's just call it what it is. And that's the game. And so we could sit here and say, in a way, maybe Eurogamer is going to have a more objective view. They could also have a very bitter view. And that's, I think, where I get to personally with video game reviews. More often than not, I see them used as justification for spending habits. And more often than not, I look to Xbox Game Pass as a way that really negates the idea that you need a review before you step into this world or in these games. In fact, it takes a lot of the financial stress of picking up a new game off of your shoulders. And so that's where I think a lot of this is. We're also seeing a tectonic shift within the industry itself. Because if we're honest with ourselves, generally speaking, we find reviewers that we align to, and we've been moving further and further away from these big publishers and more into, and this term still makes me cringe, the influencer market, of which people would categorize me to some degree. One reason why I'm not going to ever quit my job, and this is such a fun thing for me to do as a side hobby or a side hustle, as opposed to like me being full-time, like, oh my gosh, please, I got to get this review and I better make sure that I, align with at least 51% of my audience. Like, all of that doesn't matter. And so I'm very thankful for you guys for being here and being a part of this. I can share my unapologetic opinions with you guys, and ultimately we can always have some really good discussions, and that's what's been going on. Now, I'm going to highlight a couple other points because not everybody's, because I'm leaning more on the positive side. Like, this in and of itself is like, yo, guys, like, we know that we have the power here. They're like, Microsoft has all the power in this case. They've put out enough copies for the game, and ultimately enough people will be able to go hands-on that you will get a wide range of opinion whether or not you decide to spend the money, or if you're already picking it up via Game Pass here on the 6th, especially since the early access goes out. Eurogamer will be able to start releasing their content, ideally before the official launch in this case. But Reforged Gaming says, I stress this time and time again, the more the more outlets that get it, the better, but this smells funny. However, he then retweets a reply saying that Digital Foundry is compromised by Xbox, and Reforged goes on to say, I think this take is unkind, unfair, and unsubstantiated with respect to Digital Foundry. Richard Ledbetter in this picture is literally writes for Eurogamer and is their technology editor. This is the reason I want to bring this up, because no matter what, like, when it comes down to it, you have very little control of your reputation online. I think this is just almost very funny. We've seemed to bring back the Salem witch trials time and time again, but this is really kind of where your reputation, though, still dictates whether or not you're going to get that level of engagement. So if this move ends up, making people second guess Digital Foundry's work and efforts, like, I think that's a loss for them. It sucks because ultimately you can do your best, you can put the best work into it, and somebody online can, sit here and make stuff up, and then ultimately it becomes something bigger than you can ever imagine. But I thought that was interesting. I don't feel Digital Foundry is compromised, but I do feel Access Media ultimately is something that I look for to measure up against reviews of people who actually have money in the pot. You're welcome to agree or disagree. I'd love to hear those thoughts. Now, we're going to go into some couple troll posts here. I love J-Dub for him. Bethesda gave this guy Starfield a review copy, but he held back providing Digital Foundry one. I think he meant in terms of Eurogamer, because Digital Foundry does have one. And they've also come out on record talking about in-game performance is really, really good. And any performance issues are actually something that was just in the trailer in and of itself. I thought that was ultimately interesting to see. And then J-Dub goes on to say all the major non-biased media has been denied a copy of Starfield to review. That's wild. What are your thoughts? It's in and of itself is very fascinating to see. While nobody deserves that, it will be interesting to kind of analyze the reviews and the people's approach, because I've talked about this multiple times on the channel. There is an online anti-Xbox kind of bias, And this comes into just a generational shift of people growing up, getting attached to a certain brand. Same thing happens with credit cards. It's truly mind-boggling just how humans have done what we've been able to accomplish on this planet, given some of these weaknesses that we all inherently share. So somebody defending a console is kind of the same person who's defending their first bank that gave them a credit card, or the first person they ever kissed. Like, there is this kind of relationship and bond that almost gets cemented in time. But that is just the thoughts that I had. I want to shift us over into Class Dismissed. We'll talk about some Sony fanboyism and people converting in this episode of Class Dismissed. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. But if you're sticking around, let's talk about it. Skate Mobster says, I'm a borderline Sony pony, and about a month ago I decided to stop being a fanboy and I bought a Series X, and it makes me realize just how stupid it is to be a fanboy. I've also been having fun on my Xbox, and I'm going to continue to have fun on my PS5 because there are great games on both sides. Stop being fanboys, fellas. It's toxic ASF. And to everybody that you choose, or man, I've fumbled that one. To everybody, and you choose yourself off of finding great games. You close yourself off. There we go. That's my dyslexia at work, guys, and we're just gonna roll with it. So, welcome in. Now, I'm considered platform agnostic. I own all the platforms, but I advocate for games for everywhere. Play anywhere. Games should be games. And when you look at this one industry, it's very clear that it's holding on to some of the ways that it survived long ago, and it's banking on that nostalgia. When you look at the next generation coming into the fray, you don't see that console war anymore. It's so few and far between, and it ends up being a lot because the games they're playing are all cross-play, cross-save, cross everywhere. So to sit down and say that you now have to go invest in one platform to have one experience tends to have people kind of go, but why? And that ultimately will be something we'll have to see how that spreads itself out over the course of the next several years. Nintendo's always going to be the weird duck in this situation, namely because they own some of the biggest IP in the world. But with that IP locked away to their systems, I hope that we can one day see a future where your games are your games and you can just play them as a part of whatever service, platform, cloud streaming, you can literally just play your library when you want to play it, because that's what PC gaming seems to be. And the reason why I want more of these games to be released everywhere, or at a minimum supporting PC more, is it gives gamers more choice and more options and more performance at the end of the day if you got the budget for it. Anyway, guys, I hope that you got something good out of this video. Thank you again for the support on the channel. Thank you again for hanging out. Be sure to hit that like button. I don't have another bonus video for you guys today, so part of the like challenge, we'll keep it at a humble 200, and I wish you guys all the absolute very best. Thank you again. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video, but until then, take care.